welcome you to the Candidate Forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. My name is Barbara Young, and I'm a League member from the League of Women Voters of the LaGrange area, so I can't vote for any of these candidates. But I am a former commissioner of the Park District of LaGrange. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We're happy to provide this service for the community. At this time, I'd ask you to please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. I'd also ask you to refrain from applauding or in other ways demonstrating either support or opposition for any candidate. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room, but there is some downstairs. And feel free to put your campaign bling on once again once you leave the room. The League of Women Voters of Elmhurst has submitted 3 questions which were given to the candidates ahead of time, as well as collecting questions from the community via email. And of course, we encourage you to submit questions as well. Note cards and pencils have been provided on which to submit your questions. Questions will be screened for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness, and please signal a League volunteer when your question is ready for submission or if you need additional note cards. This forum is for those candidates seeking to be an Elmhurst Park District Board Commissioner. It would be a 6-year term. All candidates were invited, but candidate Tim Sheehan was unable to attend. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to the forum. Our 2 candidates for today are Bob Dunn and Susan Sementek. And before we begin with questioning, I want to remind the audience that this candidate forum is being recorded and will be available on elmhursttv.com. It'll also be available on the League website and YouTube channel. And we will be asking questions in alternating alphabetical order. So we're going to begin with opening statements. The candidates have 1 minute, and we're going to begin with candidate Dunn. So welcome.
Thank you, Barb. Good afternoon, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this worthwhile community event today. I am Bob Dunn, and I have been your 2nd Ward Alderman for the City of Elmhurst for the last 12 years. I have decided to step down from this role in City Council in order to run for the Elmhurst Park District Park Commissioner seat. My priorities as a member of the Park District Board are building an indoor sports facility, expanding program offerings for all ages, creating a more user-friendly and fair registration platform, adding pickleball courts, and maintaining green space. Things have improved for the city by leaps and bounds over the last 12 years, and I intend to bring this track record of success to our Elmhurst Park system, specifically in the area of improving services to our residents, undertaking bold development projects, and greatly improving our financial position. Enhanced intergovernmental cooperation is vitally important to the long-term success of the Park District, and I am uniquely qualified to facilitate a highly productive working relationship between the Parks, City, and School District. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Sementek, your opening.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Susan Sementek, and I am running for Elmhurst Park District Board Commissioner. I recently spoke with a group of residents, after which I asked one of my friends, how did I do? And she said, although I forgot to mention my qualifications for the position and my reason for running for office, it was great. I am a certified Parks and Recreation executive with extensive professional experience in developing and managing recreational programs, special special events, sponsorships, and budgets for public agencies. I'm running for Park Board because I love Elmhurst parks and recreation programs. My family has participated in everything from preschool on up. My children are currently in youth sports leagues, playing on park fields, and in programs at Wagner Center. I'm an involved community member, focused on collaboration with resident input to plan for the district's future and to help the district achieve their vision to be a national leader in providing memorable parks and recreation experiences to the residents.
Okay. And now we're going to begin with the question and answer portion of the forum. And I'm going to begin with one of the questions that the candidates received in advance. If elected, how would you work to ensure the Elmhurst Park District is utilizing the most current renewable energy sources and energy-efficient solutions? And we're going to begin with candidate Sementek.
Conservation is one of the three pillars of the National Recreation and Park Association. Elmhurst Park District has been honored multiple times with awards for its significant achievements in protecting the environment and helping to sustain the future. Courts Plus users might notice that some of the efforts there include LED lighting in the hallways, studios, and tennis courts, along with energy-efficient lights in the fitness floor area. To ensure that the district is utilizing the most current renewable energy sources and energy-efficient solutions, we, the residents, must continue to ask for environmental sustainability plans as we are part of a strategic planning process. I would work to educate residents in the importance of giving their input during these planning cycles, because when they are written into plans, goals such as get to net zero or install solar on the roof are then prioritized. We should look at the work that DuPage County Forest Preserve has done with renewable sources, and we should seek out opportunities to partner with the city and with the school district when it's feasible to form a cohesive plan for our area.
Okay, and candidate Dunn, same question.
The Park District should always be at the forefront of sustainability initiatives in Elmhurst. Moving towards all-electric or hybrid vehicles for the district's fleet should be occurring at a rapid pace, just as the city of Elmhurst has been doing for the last 5 years or so. Recycling should be promoted and made very easy at all Park District locations, which is sometimes not the case. Also, the district should examine the feasibility of adding on-site solar energy anytime there is a construction project at one of the facilities. Green roofing and stormwater management best practices should be on display at select park locations to model these methods for all our citizens to learn about and follow. Thank you.
Okay, now candidate Dunn. How would you rate the overall appearance of Elmhurst Park District facilities?
Well, looking at the Vision 2020 document, I have my opinions, but I think the citizens had chimed in on this and rated the appearance as mediocre. And so there's some work to be done there. You know, I find our parks to be fabulous and enjoy them, but certainly the functionality of the playing fields is critical to a lot of parents. I hear from them about problems week in and week out, trying to get on fields to play because of adverse conditions. So the functionality of our fields, the appearance can be improved, and I look forward to looking at ways to partner with other government entities, finding grants to be able to really escalate the look and feel of our parks.
Okay, candidate Sementek.
The overall appearance of our parks is hard to state in one sentence because they vary so wildly. We have beautiful, beautiful facilities in the Wilder Mansion, the conservatory that we redid, the brand-new Centennial Park Rec Center, which just won an award from the Illinois Park and Rec Association. However, we do have some issues, and a lot of parents in town and kids play on sport fields, that once you are traveling to other towns to see their facilities, you start to notice that there's a little bit of a discrepancy. The Park District has added more staff in the field and facility maintenance department this year. The Wagner Center is not in the best. I've been in a lot of buildings that are repurposed school buildings in other park districts, and it would be great if we could reconfigure some of that space. So I do think it's a challenge, and we have very beautiful facilities, and then we have others that need a little more TLC.
Okay. This is a question from you, the audience, and we'll begin with candidate Sementek. Have you been to the new Park District Adult Center? What resources should be added to enhance the adult center into a one-stop shop for older adults?
Yes, I've been to the new adult center in that park. To enhance it and to make it into a one-stop shop, you might have to add more dance studios because some of the adult dance programs are still occurring in the studios at the Wagner Center. If there is an interest in more and various art and cooking classes, there could be some space in there that could be used for that. Otherwise, I think it's fairly well utilized and received by the people that are using it currently.
Okay. Candidate Dunn, your thoughts?
I'm proud of what occurred to bring the Centennial Recreation Center to fruition. It was a collaborative effort between the schools, buying property to be able to fund this, the city, and of course the Park District. The city was able to move our Metropolitan Family Services over there, much better space to service the public. So I think this has been a big win for the city. We have a senior commission here that's sponsored by the city of Elmhurst with council oversight, and have been attended quite a few of those meetings in the past. They do great work, and I'm very satisfied with what has taken place in this Centennial Recreation Center. Thanks.
Okay. The next one, again, is one of the questions they had in advance, and we'll begin with candidate Dunn. Since 2015, Elmhurst Park District registration events have failed 6 times. What are your ideas for ongoing improvement in this area?
The current VSI program registration system was selected by the Elmhurst Park District back in 2015. There's been some failures, as was mentioned, and these failures generally occur at peak times for summer and fall registration. This causes a lot of stress and disruption for the parents and kids in town. I've heard countless stories of parents having several computers, their phones out, just trying to get into classes that really work for their interests and schedules, and only to get shut out. So the Park District has done another RFP and has selected a new platform. I believe that is going to be a good solution in terms of efficiency in the mechanics of registration. The other major component of satisfying the residents and having a fair and effective registration process is to ensure that we have the right mix of classes and programs and the supporting staffing so that residents have a balanced set of program offerings to suit their needs. Thanks.
Okay. Candidate Sementek, your thoughts on registration?
The district has recently announced that they will switch over to the ActiveNet registration system, which is the same system used by the largest district in the state, the Chicago Park District. This change taking place later this year or early 2024 will address system capacity issues. However, beyond the registration system issue remains the fact that wait lists for popular programs, days, and times will still exist. The current solution of staggered registration dates for different programs involves parents spending even more time right now getting on the computer to register and still ending up on wait lists. We have neighboring districts with excess capacity who benefit from our wait list, but this is inconvenient and more expensive for our residents. We must address the problem of program offerings and capacity creatively, utilizing our existing spaces more fully, including more evening and weekend programs and services, such as the Wagner Center could offer things more in the weekend, and Courts Plus could host more programs that are not specific to being a member of that facility.
Okay, candidate Sementek, which Elmhurst Park District programs or facilities have you or your family utilized during the past year? And would you like to see any new programming that is not currently offered?
during the past year, I could go on and on over a lifetime. My family has utilized the meteorites and the sunbeams and rainbows, and currently I have a daughter who's in her final year in the dance program, and my son is playing both lacrosse and baseball this year out in the fields. So those aren't park-specific programs, but they play on the park fields. We have also been to events, the movies in the park, egg hunts, things like that. We love all that stuff. I would say that for my family, and we're in a situation where our children are older, that our programming needs are being met by the district at this time.
Okay, candidate Dunn.
As far as the Park District, we are very active users of that, of the amenities that are available. East End Pool, I think, is a great facility. Generally fairly crowded when I'm there. Even at 6 in the morning when I'm swimming laps, it tends to be fairly crowded. I live near Barron's Park up in the 2nd Ward. Again, a great facility, a lot of land up there to do a lot of things. My family plays tennis, so sometimes we hit the sledding hill, we jog around the loop there. And of course, we have Wilder Park in the middle of town. That's another gym that really facilitates great events, the art in the park, and the many things that occur there, the movies. And finally, the Salt Creek Trail. That's a fantastic asset that we have, that the Park District was instrumental in laying out. And I've been working very hard at my role as an alderman to create a bridge to get over to that Salt Creek part from the northern part of Elmhurst so that more people can utilize that. Thanks.
Okay, and this is a question from the public here. We're going to stick with the East End Pool. For many years, Elmhurst Park District has had an adult swim at East End Park 1 hour before the families come. Last year, this was eliminated, even though many seniors advocated for its return. And we'll begin with candidate Dunn. Would you advocate for a return of this hour for adults only?
Well, it depends on the usage. I think that there is adult time every 10 minutes or so on the hour, and all the kids scamper out when the whistle blows for that. And it's the way it was when I was a kid growing up. We had to get out of the water to let the adults, have some relaxing time. As far as a full hour, I am okay with that. If that's before the general hours of when the pool's opening, I think that would be acceptable. Again, the pool is open a lot during the day. There's ample times to use it, and I don't think anyone should have an issue if there's 1 hour of the day devoted to adults, seniors, people with disabilities. I think we should be supportive of that. Thanks.
Okay, candidate Sementek?
Could you restate?
Absolutely. For many years, Elmhurst Park District has had an adult swim at East End Park for 1 hour before the families come. Last year, this was eliminated, even though many seniors advocated for its return. Would you advocate for return of this hour for adults only?
Thank you. I would first ask, why did they take that hour off the schedule? Because I would naturally say, of course, I would advocate for you if that is the way that you need the pool to be. And it's not unusual that pools have an early morning adult swim only for lap swimmers. So why did they remove that from the schedule? What was the reason for that? Do we need more time for families? Was there a reason that we had to have more families in there earlier? Can we put in some earlier family swim time at Smalley? What can we do, since we have 2 facilities, to make it work out to the best usage of all the residents?
Okay. And candidate Sementek, as an Elmhurst Park District Board member, which future projects would you like to see set into motion?
Future projects. Well, I can tell you that when I'm talking with people, that there's a great number of people, especially if their kids play on sports fields, that they would like to see an indoor turf facility. And there is possibly an equal number of people that say, if you have to raise my taxes to build an indoor turf facility, then I'm not necessarily so interested in that. So it is interesting to me to see what will happen in that regard with the interests of the community, how we're going to fund things. My other interest is the space where the former Lazadro Museum was. Once that building is removed, could we put in something that helps us do more music in the parks?
Okay, candidate Dunn?
I would echo what Susan suggested about the indoor sports facility. Talking with many parents, it's high on their list. And there's a high level of frustration to have to go to other communities for that type of facility. And also the Wagner Center, expanding that. It is a small, semi-dysfunctional facility that really needs to be, have a huge makeover there. I guess lastly, growing interest in pickleball. I would look at expanding the amount of courts available to those, that growing population. I think on the Elmhurst pickleball Facebook site, there's 600 people on that. So obviously we got a pretty big, strong support for that activity.
Okay. And candidate Dunn, do you support a referendum to fund the construction of a sports complex? Why or why not?
Well, if a sports complex, which I'm not sure what the writer of this question had intended, if it was some outdoor area or an indoor sports facility, those obviously cost millions of dollars. The Park District has about 5 months, I think, 5 to 6 months of fund balance. They're not an entity that can build up a lot of money to execute big projects like this. So, anything that large that needs to be done, schools, we saw that with the referendum, and the public was massively supportive of that. I think the public here, the residents, have an appetite to continue to live better in Elmhurst, and something like that would probably receive a lot of support, and so I would think that would be something that would need to occur to facilitate us growing in the future.
Okay, Candidate Sementek?
Again, I received so many differing opinions from voters who feel very strongly on both sides of the subject, especially in the light of the facilities that we do have that aren't utilized to their maximum capacity. So building a facility like this, I'm sure there would be another statistical survey that would go out about that. The one that went out in the past came back overwhelmingly no at that time. So I'm sure that once a new survey is done, then we would have more information as to whether the residents would support such a thing.
Okay. And last question, Candidate Sementek. How can the Elmhurst Park District make Safety Town more accessible to families who can't afford it or who require a greater variety of scheduling options?
So if you've never been to Safety Town is our miniature, it's out by the depot off of the Prairie Path, and you can ride your tricycle around, and there's even a car wash you can go through. It's used, I believe, for camps at that depot, Safety Town camp that my kids were in when they were little, and they're still running. And if we could plan some open Safety Town time, then it would allow more residents to have access to that facility.
Okay, Candidate Dunn.
Yeah, my understanding of Safety Town, and been by there quite a few times, we do have a summer camp offered there. It's supported by the police and fire. I'm not sure, that there's much of a cost to that, other than the staff that needs to go there and manage it, which is, they're generally working anyway. But I think that if there are families that can't afford that type of program, there should be ways to support them and fund families for their children to go attend that. I've heard a lot of positive things from parents whose children have attended that, and then they go back and reminisce about when their kids were younger and went to Safety Town. So it has a lot of benefit to the kids in the community, and we should certainly support that.
Okay, so that's it for questions and answers. Unfortunately, our time is short. So we're going to have closing statements, again, 1 minute, and I'd begin with candidate Sementek.
Parks and recreation programs are essential public services that provide economic value, along with health, environmental, and social benefits. I have spent a lot of time in Elmhurst parks and facilities, from Eagles cheerleaders to youth baseball, and now this year I'll find out what fields we play lacrosse upon. And I've been on the sidelines for many fields. My children have grown up in our parks and at the Wagner Center. My ongoing career in the field of park and recreation keeps me informed of the best practices and the trends in the industry, and I'm an innovative candidate with a proven record of providing programs, services, and community events to our residents, who is also dedicated to preserving our parks and green spaces. If I'm elected to be your commissioner, I will work to deliver a high standard for our parks and facilities, advocate for meaningful recreation opportunities, and provide responsive customer service for community members while planning for the future of the Elmhurst Park District. Thank you again for inviting me to speak today, and I respectfully ask for your vote on Election Day. Okay,
candidate Dunn.
We talked about some important issues today and had some very thoughtful questions from the audience. We're very fortunate to have such an engaged and involved group of citizens in Elmhurst. I am always thankful for that. The Elmhurst Park District was established over 100 years ago and has a budget of about $25 million. 10% of that allocated to capital projects, and I think we need to push forward with new projects, such as the indoor sports facility, expanding Wagner Center, to ensure that our future generations in Elmhurst have best-in-class recreational, sporting, and leisure facilities for all age levels, while ensuring we maintain and preserve our green space. I'm happy to have served the residents of Elmhurst as an alderman for 12 years, and I look forward to serving all of Elmhurst as a member of the Park Board. Thank you, and please cast your vote for me, Bob Dunn, on April 4th.
Okay, that concludes our candidate forum for Park District. I want to thank the candidates for participating and you, the voters, for attending, and would encourage you to remind your neighbors and friends that the candidates forums are being recorded and can be seen on elmhursttv.com. I also encourage you to go to the candidates' websites as well as the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst website. And remember to vote on or before April 4th, as even one vote can decide an election, and that vote could be yours. So thank you very much. We'll be back in 15 minutes for the school district. Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the candidate forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. My name is Barbara Young, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of the LaGrange area. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. At this time, I would ask that you please turn off cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room, but there is literature downstairs. And please feel free to put your campaign bling on once again after you leave the room. The League of Women Voters of Elmhurst has submitted 3 questions in advance to the candidates, as well as collecting questions from the community via email. And of course, you in the audience can also submit questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Note cards and pencils have been provided on which to submit your questions. Feel free to signal a league volunteer when your question is ready for submission or if you need additional note cards. The forum this afternoon is for those candidates seeking to be a member of the District 205 School Board, which is a term of 4 years. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to the forum. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an introductory statement. The order will be determined alphabetically by last name. And then we will begin with questions and answers. They'll also have 1 minute for their responses. And then finally, there'll be closing statements continuing in alphabetical order. There are league timers here sitting in front, and I ask the candidates to please finish your thought, your statement, your sentence within the time that you have. And if not, I will remind you that your time is up. Introducing the candidates that we have with us this afternoon is Kelly Asaf, Tom Chavez, Kelly Henry, Beth Hosler, Lon Lee, Linda Nudera, Jamie Esker Scher, and Ben Zuloff. Candidate Courtney Troutman is not here this afternoon. And we're now going to begin with the opening introductory statements, and I'll begin with candidate Asaf.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us today. My name is Kelly Asif. For 25 years, I've advocated for students in every aspect of my career. I will bring to the D205 School Board my expertise in child and adolescent development and student mental health. I have a master's degree in education with a school counseling specialization, and I was a K-12 school counselor for many years. I've been PTA president at Field, and I'm currently PTA president-elect at Sandburg, and have led many fundraising efforts. I have 3 school-aged children in the district now, so I have a long-term vested interest in the success of D205. My priorities for the school board are to promote and advocate for programs that support social and emotional learning and bolster existing resources. Number 2, improve district proficiency and achievement by continuing the work of the strategic plan underway. And number 3, to connect with the community and directly engage with stakeholders. My focus as a board member will always be to use my education and professional experience to make decisions in the best interest of our students and the community. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we move to candidate Chavez for his opening statement.
Hi, thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting me here to speak. My name's Tom Chavez. I have been a 17-year resident of Elmhurst. I have 3 children, all of whom have gone through District 205. I have a college grad, I have a college junior, and I have a York senior. I've had the benefit of watching children K through 12 go through District 205, and I've seen the change in the district over the last several years. Academic rigor in this community has fallen significantly. We have 8,134 students in the district. Half of them are below grade level in core subjects, math and reading. The reason why I'm running for District 205 School Board is I want to see improvement in our academics. Thank you.
Okay. Candidate Henry.
My name is Dr. Kelly Henry. First and foremost, I'm a mother to twin second-grade daughters at Edison Elementary. I'm a part-time pediatrician and palliative care physician at Loyola Medical Center. I'm an associate professor of internal medicine and pediatrics at Loyola Stritch School of Medicine, where I teach residents and medical students. Outside of my work, I volunteer with community outreach and advocacy on gun violence prevention. I'm the national chair for the Community Health and Prevention Group for the organization Doctors for America and a local lead on the Be Smart team team, which advocates and teaches gun safety education to our community. I'm running for school board because I have witnessed how the physical and mental health of our children directly impacts their well-being and academic success. I advocate for children daily, both as a pediatrician and a mother. All of our children deserve the best public education, and I am committed to keeping our students at the center of my decisions on the Board of Education.
Okay, candidate Hosler.
I'm Beth Hosler, and I'm running for re-election to the District 205 School Board. I've served one term. I'm a lifelong resident of Elmhurst, and I attended District 205 schools. We have 3 children, and I have volunteered in our district for the past 14 years. I know District 205 offers Elmhurst students a fantastic educational experience. I also know there is room for improvement, and as a school board member, I'm committed to the work we are doing to raise the bar. I will continue to advocate for oversight of the referendum passed in 2018 to ensure all projects are completed on time and on budget, building on our methods for community engagement with our stakeholders. Collaboration and communication build trust and ensure decision-making that reflects the values of those who elect us. I will help monitor and hold our team accountable for the strategic plan we've put in place. This plan is a solid framework that will enhance our systems and directly impact student and staff success. Our primary goal is that our students leave here with the tools they need to be successful in their endeavors. I will continue to advocate for the needs and voice of all students at every level to be sure they get the best learning experience possible.
Okay, candidate Lee.
Thank you for the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I'm honored to be here today and share my perspective on these important issues. I'm a little bit nervous about public speaking, and English is not my first language. But I'm committed to do my best to communicate my ideas clearly, and so please bear me if I stumble at my words at times, and feel free to ask for any clarifications, and appreciate your understanding here. My platform here is school safety, fiscal responsibility, and academic achievements. I've heard many bully stories within the school district, both from middle schools, elementary schools, and high schools, and there seems to be a oblivious of these kind of situation going on until last time it happened. And fiscal responsibility, I have double master in accounting and computer science, and I work as a compliance officer, safeguard billions of dollars of customer investments. So I'm trying to help to be the best stewardess of the community's funds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Candidate Nudera.
Again, thank you for hosting this. Why vote for me? Because I have depth and breadth of knowledge in the educational system. Depth, successful experiences in the classroom, coaching and mentoring young adults, as well as a Master of Ed in Foundations of Education. Breadth, decades-long relationships with a variety of educators, which include but are not limited to brother, professor at Northwestern, brother, high school teacher and coach, brother, high school resource supervisor, as well as an accomplished track coach whose program has dominated the West Suburban. Sister, wrapping up a PhD in educational leadership. She is an educator for the city colleges, writing original dance curriculum in coordination with the Joffrey Ballet. Husband, high school teacher, coach, and mentor, Master of Ed in Administration. As a problem solver, I know where to go and who to contact to bring creative solutions and resources to our district.
Okay. Candidate Esker Schauer.
Hi, my name is Jamie Esker Scher. My husband and I have 5 boys. We have lived in Elmhurst for 23 years and are parishioners of Visitation Church. 2 of our boys have graduated from D205 schools. One is a junior at York. Another is an 8th grader at Bryan. The youngest is in 3rd grade at Visitation. I am running because I have seen our property taxes increase and academic achievement decrease, a negative return on our investment. All the data is in, our kids are not doing well. Half of our students can't read or do math, and Conrad Fisher School is worse. We have 8,100 students in our district, 18% Hispanic, 1.8% Black, 6.5% Asian, 69% white, 17% have IEPs, 10% English learners, 14% low income. No combination of these numbers can explain why Fisher is failing. Thanks.
Okay, and candidate Zuloff?
Hi, my name is Ben Zuloff. My wife Katie and I have lived in Elmhurst since 2019, although I spent pretty much every weekend here growing up, and my wife grew up here as well. In fact, if you go to Visitation Church, you probably know the Krajewski family. I have 14 years in education. In that time, I've had 2 master's and a doctoral degree. My wife is a principal at Rupeway Elementary School in District 59. She also has 3 master's degrees. I joke a lot that even though we've spent a lot of time in school, I've probably learned the most on our PD couch as we sit and talk shop. I'm sure it's a lot of fun for everybody to come over and listen. We have 2 kids, John and Evelyn, who will go through the D205 school system. Really, I would love to be a part of the school board because due to the work that I'm currently doing as a literacy director in Cicero, I'm collaborating with a lot of districts around the state to help them improve their literacy systems. And I would love to be able to bring my experience and my expertise to help District 205 in any way that I can. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our introductory statements. Now we're going to move into the question and answer portion of the forum. I do want to remind those of you that although this is not being live streamed, it is being recorded and will be available on elmhursttv.com as well as the League of Women Voters website and YouTube channel. So please remind your friends and neighbors to watch it. And I appreciate your being here as well. As I said, some of the questions were submitted in advance, and we're going to begin with one of those with candidate Chavez. The school board's responsibilities include setting goals and holding the superintendent accountable for achieving them. As a board member, what would you list as your top goal, and how would you propose holding the superintendent accountable for achieving it?
My top goal is proficiency. We've already talked about the number of students that are far behind, but let's put some information behind that to just give you a sense of where the district is. The numbers on proficiency are not new from COVID. These numbers were almost as low in 2019 pre-pandemic. That's very important for people to understand because we keep talking about pandemic learning loss, which there was, but our district was near 50% proficiency prior to the pandemic. So here are some facts that parents and stakeholders should know about so they can make informed decisions about their children's education. According to ACT, students at high-performing schools who have fallen far behind academically in 4th and 8th grade have less than a 1 in 3 chance of being ready for college or career by the end of high school. Only 10% of students who are far behind their peers in college and career readiness benchmarks in 8th grade were able to meet readiness benchmarks in 12th grade. My solution is measuring. Right? You can't measure. At the end of the day, if you can't measure, you can't improve. The superintendent needs to work to define success and set tangible, measurable goals for the community on how we're going to achieve it.
Okay, candidate Henry.
Our top goal is academic recovery and continued academic success of our students. This past year, the district has developed a thorough strategic plan that focuses on improving student academic achievements and growth, learning environments, financial and operational effectiveness, and community engagement. Each of these 4 priorities has learning objectives, implementation plans, and targets set for continued growth and improving outcomes over the next several years. As a board member, I am committed to holding the administration accountable to the plan through regular updates showing the district's progress with objective evidence that our district is achieving the desired outcomes. Throughout the process, I will continue to collaborate with the administration to navigate and implement any additional interventions and resources that are required to aid our district in reaching its full potential in achieving successful learning outcomes for our students.
Okay, candidate Hostler.
Thank you. My top goal as a board member is to elevate student success. The first thing you need in order to achieve a goal is a plan. That is why we have been committed over the last year to creating a comprehensive strategic plan through collaboration with all of our stakeholders that reflects the priorities of our community. Next, you must determine areas for improvement and put action steps in place to address them. One example of this in our plan is a review of the core content areas. We must ensure our curricular materials and practices are thoughtfully put in place using data, that they address the needs of all students and teachers, and that they have the appropriate rigor and staying power to create continued consistency in our district. Our superintendent, who is an expert in raising academic achievement, is held accountable to this work through written metrics and measurements that are built into the strategic plan. This will allow us to determine if the action steps taken have been effective and if there are any adjustments that need to be made. This is an important process that we want our community to understand. That is why every step has been discussed at open board meetings, and all details and progress is being posted on our website.
Okay, Candidate Lee.
Hi. I want to first express my support and appreciation for Dr. Campbell and the work she has done since she joined D205 in 2021. She has faced many challenges, because, especially in the midst of the pandemic. And as a board member, I will do everything in my power to support her efforts. My top goal would be ensure all students of the district have access to high-quality education opportunities, to prepare them for success in college, career, and in life. I propose the following strategy to hold the superintendent accountable. One, establish clear performance metrics. I will work with the superintendent to develop realistic, clear, measurable, and time-bound performance metrics to align with our district's values. Two, I will regular reporting and monitoring, and the superintendent should require regular report on progress. Three, transparency and communication. I would prioritize transparency and communication with the community about our goals and progress. Lastly, I would propose the board to implement appropriate accountability measures if the district is not making sufficient progress in these goals. This might include modify policies and practices, reallocate resources, one last sentence, or to make changes in leadership if it's necessary. Thank you.
Okay, Candidate Nudera.
My top goal is to have our students performing at or above grade level. Children are resilient and will rebound faster when standards are high, parameters are defined, policies maintained, and expectations met through enriched curriculum. As a school board member, I will review the plan Dr. Campbell has laid out for student success and information retention. Assuring district goals have been outlined using what's called the SMARTER method. It will be easy to evaluate each grade level as well as high school curriculum to ensure they are on track for achievement. SMARTER. S, be specific. M, have everything measurable, infused with numbers. A, make sure it's achievable. R, relevant. T, timely. These can be long and short-term goals. E, essential for evaluation. And R, either reward or rework the plan.
Thank you. Candidate Esker Schauer.
My top goal as a board member would be to address the $45 million surplus. The school board will support and monitor the superintendent using the SMART method for achieving goals. S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R relevant, T time-bound. There should be no levy in high inflation years. The current school board is responsible for the tax increase on your tax bill this year. I will not vote for a 5% tax increase. Thank you.
Okay, Candidate Zuloff.
My top goal as a board member is to help ensure that everything that we're doing aligns with research. And that means using research-based materials, research-based instruction, and research-based assessment practices. The way that I think that we can best hold our superintendent accountable for that is, one, through regular updates. We need to make sure that we're all aware as a community and as a board what's happening in those classrooms, what practices we're asking teachers to implement, and then what are we taking off their plates as well. We also, with improved proficiency, we'll also need to make sure that our local and state assessments are aligning. Are we seeing the same results in the classroom as what we're seeing reported through tests like MAP or through IAR? And then finally, we need to make sure that we're communicating everything that we're doing effectively to the community.
Okay, Candidate Asa.
My top goals as a board member are to promote strong mental health and social emotional learning programs, improve district proficiency and achievement, and to connect with the community through communication and outreach. I will hold the superintendent accountable to achieving these goals by requesting frequent updates on the measurable objectives established in the strategic plan, ensuring learning targets and timelines are being met, and that curricular resources and instructional practices are aligned to data, research, and standards. The board is the voice of the community, so we must ensure our district is communicating effectively to stakeholders by building positive community partnerships, combating misinformation with clear, accurate data, and celebrating all of the positive things happening in the district every single day. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Candidate Henry, we'll begin with you. If elected, what is the role of a school board member?
Thank you. So the role of a school board member is really to, one role is to hire the superintendent, and two is really to, make sure that the curriculum that is being presented represents all of our students, that we're helping the district guide the curriculum decisions, ensuring that we have equitable resources and interventions for any student that may need it, that we're using data to drive our decisions not only on curriculum, but that we're looking at the data and how effective the curriculum is and what are our learning gaps and how can we intervene and make sure that all of our students have the resources that they need to be successful. That's the role of the school board.
Okay, Candidate Hostler.
Thank you. The role of the school board is to listen to our community and to the people who elect us and set goals that reflect the priorities and values of our community. Then we must make sure that there are action steps in place to achieve those goals. That begins with the hiring of a superintendent that we feel can achieve that, and then monitoring the action steps to make sure that the goals, that we are moving towards our goals as an organization. We must also put things in place to support our teachers and our students at every level and make sure that we are addressing the needs of all our students. We must also make sure that we're being fiscally responsible and good stewards of our taxpayers' money and creating good learning environments for our students. Thank you so much.
Okay, Candidate Lee.
I've always compared the Board of Education as the board of director of a corporation, and the administration would be the CEO, especially the superintendent would be the CEO of this particular corporation. And the board of director would hold the CEO responsible for the goals set up by the community. In this particular case, academic achievements would be the top priority of the community. And then we have fiscal responsibility, and the board of education should be a good steward of the community's fund. These funds are not the school's money, not the board's money. This is the community's money. This is hard-earned money by the Elmhurst residents. We should not be raising taxes when we are having surplus, and we have an extra fund of $45 million. Thank you.
Okay, Candidate Nudera.
Simply put, I think the role of the school board is to be the liaison between the community and the superintendent. We want to productively work with the superintendent, helping support her and all the things that she's working on within the curriculum and budgetary and teacher enhancement programs. So we want to make sure that we're supporting her, providing her with the knowledge and the depth of information needed to make good choices. That information comes from the community, comes from our teachers. We are also accountable to the taxpayers. We want to make sure that we are not wasting any of the generous monies that come into our school district.
Okay, Candidate Esker Schauer.
Can you repeat the question, please?
If elected, what is the role of a school board member?
The school board, they connect with the community. They engage in an ongoing two-way conversation with the entire community. The board employs and evaluates one person, the superintendent, and holds that person accountable for district performance and compliance with written board policy. Thanks.
Okay, candidate Zuloff?
So I've served on several dissertation committees, and each time that I've served, it was never my job to help develop the research questions or determine what the methodology would look like, or even write the dissertation itself. My job was simply to provide feedback and do the best I could to help the doctoral candidate be successful as possible. I feel like as a board member, it is not our job to try to interject our way into the district administration's agenda or what their goals are. Our job is to be knowledgeable enough to help ask the right questions to make sure that we are on the right track. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we're using taxpayer dollars responsibly, and so that we're reaching those goals as efficiently as possible.
Okay, candidate Asaf?
The role of the school board is to hold the superintendent and administration accountable and ensure that they are hitting the benchmarks and learning targets that are established. We also approve, or we will if I'm on there, approve funding for proposed curriculum that is coming from the administrators. We listen to the community, we're the voice of the community. And then we balance the fiscal responsibility with promoting strong educational opportunities.
Okay, and candidate Chavez?
The role of the school board, there's many roles of the school board, but a couple of them that are very important to me are fiscal responsibility, and according to the Illinois State School Board Association, one of the top priorities is to report the performance of the district to the community. District 205 over the last couple of years has struggled to do that. You know, recently they reported to the community that our performance academically was commendable and exemplary when we're at 50% proficiency across the district. So as a board member, one of the things that I will do is to make sure that we are advocates for the students and the parents, and that they know exactly what's going on academically with their students in our school district.
Okay. Next question. Candidate Hassler, will begin with you. When resources are limited, how will you evaluate which initiatives receive resources and funding?
Well, first we'd have to start with a lot of collaboration with our community and talking to our stakeholders and finding out what priorities they had. What things would they like us to highlight, and what things would we want to make sure that we didn't have to make an impact on. We need to find other ways to bring in revenues as well when in a situation like that. Through grants, we have amazing organizations in our community, parents that help to support our district in any way we can, in any way they can, to give our students the things that they need to elevate the educational experience that we can offer them as a district. So we would tap into some of those resources and see how we could bring in more revenue streams that way. We would also have our administration look into other ways that they could tap into other revenue sources as well. The last thing we want to do is take things away from the educational experience that our students are having. So that would be my last resort. But of course, if we did that, it would be through careful communication with our community and data.
Okay, candidate Lee, same question.
Actually, could you repeat the question, please?
When resources are limited, how will you evaluate which initiatives receive resources and funding?
This question is actually a little bit difficult to answer since, again, we have been in multiple years, the Elmhurst district has a budget surplus, and again, we have $40 million sitting in the bank. So regardless, if we do have a shortfall in resources, obviously the first thing we need to do is communicate with the community, and because that's the biggest stakeholder, and to decide what to do with it, either through possibly increased taxes and or again possibly with the last resort cut programs. But again, like I said in the beginning, it's a little bit hard to answer since we never had any
Candidate
resources.
Nadera? We, of course, want to assess our programs, especially the ones that are driving student success rates. Grants are available. They are underused. Lots of times they go wasted. They go to the sideline because no one's aware of them. So it would be part of our responsibility to help find grants at both the federal, state, and local level. Our community is exceptionally generous. Fundraising is always available as an option, and we've used it many times in the 24 years that I've lived here and been a part of the PTA. And then there are wasteful contracts that we could cut. We can use our teachers. They are a phenomenal resource, and they themselves are the best problem solvers for a lot of the little things that we waste money on.
Okay, candidate Esker Schauer.
Because the school board is already engaging with the community, the board, and the administration will work together to determine if we need to cut funding or if the staff and the teachers can find other resources. Thanks. Thank you.
Candidate Zuloff.
As some other people have said, we definitely need to communicate or to reach out to the community to see what is the community interested in, or what do they feel we need to keep, or what's important to them. We also need to make sure that we are determining the essentials. For example, we can diagnose dyslexia by the age of 5 now, so we need to make sure that we're definitely keeping things, universal screeners in place to help to catch those kids. We need to keep our programs that are prioritizing student learning. So our core curriculums, we need to make sure that those are effective. If they're not, swapping them out. Looking at any extras that we may have that are nice to have as teachers, but really aren't the core curriculum. Are those contracts things that we could be cut? And then finally, I know there are a lot of grants, and we're very blessed in my district that we do have a lot of grant money that we're able, but we have somebody who is proactively looking for those monies, and so that would be our last source.
Okay, candidate Asaf.
I think we would need to really look at the needs of our students and see where they need the most support and make sure that those areas are being supported the most. We need to have conversations with our community members, teachers, administrators, and collaborate to determine the best, to provide high quality programming for the students, and making sure that their needs are being met, and that, we have to make very difficult fund decisions, but I also think that we need to make sure that our students are getting what they need.
Okay, candidate Chavez.
If resources are limited, I think the district needs to be transparent with parents and show them where the money's being spent. Over the last several years, we've spent quite a bit of money on expensive consulting groups that have come into the district at $50,000, $40,000 a pop, and have delivered really, if you look and see what the deliverable is, it's pretty hard to figure out where the money's going. So I think those are places where we could really start evaluating, if resources are limited, the goal should be focus on things that are going to help our students learn, and evaluate administrative positions and look at what's being delivered to the community with these salaries and the money being spent on consultants. I think those are the two places to start.
Okay, and last, candidate Henry.
I think it's important that we're looking at learning gaps and really aligning our resources to ensure that we're elevating our students that need the most to be successful. Echoing what other people said, I think grants are a way to also bring in more resources and educational materials to our schools. It's important that we're talking with our community to see what resources are available in the community that can also help support our students, and that we're making cost-effective decisions that will give our students the highest return and the highest value.
Okay. The next question is going to begin with candidate Lee, and I've received lots of questions, so I'm going to combine a couple of them. So one is, how do you feel the school district did during the pandemic? And how do we minimize the remote learning that is still going on? And the last one is, how do we get our students off of their devices? So those are kind of three questions that are all kind of related.
I don't think I can answer all these questions in 1 minute. I'll try, but I'll certainly try. The first question is, how did we do in the pandemic? As everybody has already talked about, we have a number of issues because of the remote learning, especially for the students' mental health and social well-being. I don't think we actually did a very good job, since considering that we are, Elmhurst is the last school district in Illinois to reopen. Considering how many districts are there, I think that's a little bit excessive. And also, how to get students off of the device? There are a number of ways to do this. Right now, it seems to be based on the instructors' preferences, but I personally think no student should have electronic device during class. Just put a. Let me finish, if I could.
Why don't you save it for the next one?
Okay.
You'll have more time then. Okay, candidate Nudera?
Could you please repeat them? I got the
can.
first and the last, the middle and a little.
Yeah, so the first one was, how do you feel the district did during the pandemic? The second one is, how do we reduce remote learning? And the third one is, how do we get our students off of our devices? You know, there's a lot to unpack.
All right. You know, I'm going to be frank in the fact that I was not paying attention to our district during the pandemic. I was knee-deep in my own rewriting of curriculum for the students that I work with in a Title I district out west. So I am not one to judge how they did. I'm going to say it was successful because the kids are all still here and the teachers are here and things look well. As far as reducing remote learning, some of these students might feel a little bit of anxiety coming back to a group setting. So I think a slow, unemotional reemergence would be good for them. See if we can collaborate on smaller classes, maybe have some co-teaching. And then getting them off their devices. When you set a standard that the devices are not okay to have in class and you follow up with that, they won't be there. And hand out Legos. Kids still love Legos.
Okay. Candidate Esker-Schauer.
How did we do during the pandemic? My boys did not like doing remote learning. I wish they would have been in school the entire time. I did fight for the kids to return to school without masks, but I think we all survived and everyone is stronger for this. How to reduce the remote learning? I agree with Linda, and I think we need to slowly reemerge the students. How to get students off their devices? We could turn off the Wi-Fi and disconnect like Verizon and AT&T. Thank you.
Okay. Candidate Zulaw.
Like what was already said, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not sure how we responded to the pandemic. I was just north in Bensonville as a district-wide employee trying to figure out how we were going to provide instruction for our students. At the same time, my wife was trying to figure out what instruction was going to look like for her school. The fact is there's no handbook for pandemics. There's no handbook written for how do you respond to that, and I think everybody did the best that they could. In terms of remote learning, I know that in both the districts that I've worked in, returning to school was more along parent choice, but we do need to be working with those families to figure out what are the student needs in order to be able to gradually introduce them back into the classroom. And then getting kids off devices, honestly, I can speak to our new middle school curriculum. We have both the hardcover and we have the device. Some students prefer the hardcover and some people deserve the device or want the device. And so I think it's student preference there.
Okay. Candidate Asa.
I think the school district did the best they could during the pandemic. I think we have since learned a lot of lessons since no one has ever experienced a pandemic in our lifetime. So I think, if something like that were to occur again, we would use those lessons to make decisions for our kids that were in their best interest. My belief is that if children can safely be in the classroom, that's the best place for them emotionally, socially, and academically. And then in terms of getting off devices, I think we need to continue to offer strong extracurricular programs and athletics and activities, which I think D205 does a great job of. We have so many options for our kids, and I know when my kids are more involved in things, then they are less likely to be on their computers and phones and things. So I think we just continue to offer strong programs after school and before school. Thank you.
Candidate Chavez.
The data, I think the school district struggled to do a good job with during the pandemic. I spoke at school board meetings about what should be happening, and I was concerned about the kids. The decisions that were being made were not student-centered, and that means that the data, if you look at DuPage County and you look at the average age of a teacher in Illinois, it showed that morbidity from age, first grade through 44 years old, which is the average age of a teacher, there was very little, similar to the common flu. So the decisions being made going forward should be made based on data, right? In terms of remote learning, I think, we should try to get most kids in the classroom. If they can't get them back in the classroom, I think we should have programs in place to support them. And in terms of getting kids off their devices, I wholeheartedly support that. I think it's a distraction. I've heard it from a lot of parents, and that kids should not be in the class while they're trying to learn, and at the same time try to be on their cell phone surfing the internet. I think that's a big problem.
Candidate Henry.
I would say that the district did the best they could with the information and uncertainty we all had during the pandemic. I think it's easy that hindsight is always 20/20, not to use the word 2020, but hindsight is always 20/20, and I think now, looking back on it, we can reflect and say that we can do in-person learning, that in-person learning for our children is extremely important and valuable, not only for their academic development, but for also their emotional development. And I'm confident that the district would do everything that they could to ensure in-person learning and doing it safely if there was ever a need in the future. So I think that's one important thing. And then as far as getting off devices, I think there are appropriate use of devices sometimes in class, but I agree and echo what Kelly said, that it's really about promoting more physical activities and more after-school clubs. And I know same with me is when my kids are more active and more involved, they spend less time off their devices.
Okay, and finally, Candidate Hostler.
So the pandemic was unprecedented, nothing we had ever been through before, and we were asked to make decisions as a school board member that were very difficult. I think our board did the best job we could with the information that we had at the time. And it's easy to go back and say we should have done this or we could have done that, but the fact is we just didn't have a whole lot of information. None of us did. One thing we did learn, and one thing we did do, is we always advocated for our students for local control and to be able to make decisions that were best for those here in our community, and we will continue to do that. We also learned that students need to be in school, and that it's very important for students to have in-person learning. So if we do have students that are still doing online learning, they would need the support that they needed to help get them back into our school to be able to be in person. As far as cell phones, I feel that they stop kids from interacting with one another, and as kids turn into adults, they don't learn those skills and they have issues with that later. So I would advocate for cell phones not being used in the classroom unless it was appropriate. I always say people first, and if our kids are with each other, they should be interacting with each other and not on their cell phones. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to begin with candidate Nudera, and the topic is school safety. What do you think we need to do to make sure our schools are safe?
This is a multi-layered question. Naturally, we want the physical safety. We want buildings that have cameras in them and around them. We want buildings that have appropriate entrances and exits. We want teachers who are respectful of how the physical layout is and not try to adapt to their classroom simply because that physical safety is inconvenient for them to teach. That's the first thing. And then we need emotional safety for our students. We need to have teachers and administration that are compassionate and are willing to work with the entire student body regardless of what their angst might be. And then we need to make sure the space is safe for the teachers. We need to encourage our community to bring respectful, kind students to school. I know several teachers who are frustrated at the lack of respect that they are receiving as teachers, both inside this district and out.
Okay. Candidate Esker Scher, school safety.
School safety. We need to make sure that all buildings are safe and that all students and teachers know that they are safe inside the building. Thanks.
Okay. Candidate Zuloff.
First, we need to make sure that we have that the buildings are secure. So that means we're buzzing everybody in, that we're coming into the office, we're checking everybody before they get into the buildings. But we also need to make sure that we have all of our routines in place, but more importantly, that everybody knows the routines. I think it's very easy to make a very nice looking and nice sounding plan that's printed and distributed and put in classrooms, but if people don't know what that plan is or what they're supposed to do in certain situations, then the plan is worthless. So we need to make sure that we're dedicating time to make sure everybody who's working in the schools are familiar with those plans. We also need to make sure that we have the correct firewalls in place to keep kids safe online. The more that we advance, the technology is kind of inevitable. We have to make sure that students are getting onto their devices, but that they can use them appropriately, and we're not concerned about what they're finding when they get into their computers.
Okay. Candidate Asaf.
Firstly, I think we need to ensure that we have safe and secure entrances in our buildings. I know the recent referendum made sure that that happened, and if a school didn't have that, they made that improvement, and so that is one thing that's happened. I know I worked at Sandberg for a short time this year, filling in a sick leave in the front office, and they have a really good system for when parents check in and out, but more importantly, when, for example, a maintenance worker or someone that isn't regularly in the school would come in and they have a background check type situation, and they keep their a copy of their ID. So I think those are all important to have in place. I think it's really important that we are also just, again, supporting our children, their mental health. I think, having to do active shooter drills and all of these things that go along with our society today, I think that they need to make sure that we're checking in with them as well and making sure they're mentally and emotionally safe as well.
Okay. Candidate Chavez.
I think the school district needs to have a comprehensive, robust safety plan for the school, which would include things like looking at the perimeter, cameras, things like that. It should be reviewed at different intervals so that we know that things change, security issues change, and that we're constantly and proactively reviewing them. I think that I echo what Linda Nudera is saying about behaviors and attitudes inside the school, and that the students and the teachers should also feel safe inside the classroom in terms of their personal security and bullying. So I think it's a situation where, again, a robust plan that's reviewable and it's transparent, and it's parents are aware of what the security issues are, and that it's reviewed on a regular interval so that we always are on top of security issues around the school.
Okay, Candidate Henry.
Like many of you, I am devastated every time I hear about another school shooting. School shootings are increasing in this country, and each year there are more school shootings. Firearms are the leading cause of death for children in the United States. Every morning, my daughter asks me, am I gonna have a good day today at school? And I always hesitate before I can say yes, and I'm tired of doing that. I'm happy about the safe and secure entrances in our schools with the new referendum. I think as a district, though, we can do more. This doesn't prevent a child from bringing a gun into school in their backpack, and it doesn't prevent a child from dying from gun suicide. I'd like to see the schools use their platform to collaborate with the police and with the city to raise an awareness on responsible gun storage and responsible gun ownership to keep guns out of the hands of our children. This is one step that our community can do to protect our students.
Okay, Candidate Hassler.
So I was on the committee that helped to pass the referendum in 2018, and this is one of the big reasons that I did it, was because it helped us to put safe and secure entrances on all of our buildings, and that has been completed. Through our construction projects, we've also been able to add other things like cameras and other state-of-the-art measures, systems inside of our buildings to help with drills and other things in case something were to happen in one of our buildings. We have a great partnership with our police and school resource officers to help with drills and educating of our staff and helping to support them when we're talking through some of these important issues and how we can keep our students safe in the event that something were to happen. Our school safety committee should continue, and they meet often, and they should continue to talk about different things that we can put in place, whether it's more staff or different systems at the doors of our schools, to make sure that we keep our schools as safe as possible. But we also have to have things in place to support our students through these difficult things that are happening in our other communities that they're hearing about, and make sure that they come to school feeling safe. Thank you.
Candidate Lee?
School safety, obviously the first one everybody has already talked about is the physical safety of the students. Obviously that involves more cameras and also possibly more resource officers that within the school district. If I'm not completely wrong, York has one resource officer that's permanently stationed there, and for the rest of the elementary schools, there are only 3 resource officers rotating within the schools. And then we're talking about the mental safety of the students. Students and actually teachers. The teacher safety also should be involved here because the teachers are definitely not getting, some of the teachers are not getting the proper respect from some of the students. I've talked to a couple of substitute teachers. They actually get spit on in school, which is definitely not appropriate. So in this particular case, we want to empower the teachers to hand out appropriate disciplinary actions for certain students if that's absolutely necessary. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to begin with candidate Esker Schauer. And I have 2 different questions, but I guess they're the same. So a few years ago, the middle school curriculum was changed to limit a student's ability to simultaneously participate in a language, fine arts, and applied arts. And the way this question is worded says that it cut down on academic courses, going from 4 solid courses to 3. Social studies and science are now only taught half a year. So the question is, what are your thoughts on this, and should it be reviewed?
Yes, I do think it should be reviewed. My son chose to stop participating in band so that he could take a language. With the block scheduling, they took away the 0 period, and I do think we need to review that and possibly bring it back. The band and the orchestra met in the morning before first period, and a lot of parents are missing that. A lot of children have had to choose between their different classes. And the social studies and the science, I've talked to several parents. They're not happy with not getting enough of the science. You get it 1 quarter, and then the next quarter you get the social studies. So if we could review and stop the block scheduling, then bring back science and social studies every day, that would be good. Thank you.
Candidate Zuloff?
Yes, I absolutely think this is something that needs to be revisited. In terms of choosing between an arts or a language, and students shouldn't have to choose. Being multilingual is a gift. That's something that we should be able to provide for students if we have the resources to give them. Also, if students want to be able to play an instrument, that should be a choice of theirs as well. I mean, the students' academic proficiency increases as they participate in things like band. In terms of science and social studies, absolutely, I think this should be revisited. In our choice to select wit and wisdom, we moved to a knowledge-building curriculum because we recognize that knowledge is important. If we're going to say knowledge is important, then we need to have content area classes to teach them that knowledge, such as science and social studies. A lot of times in schools, you hear jargon like, we're going to teach critical thinking skills, but critical thinking isn't taught the way that schools try to present it a lot of times. You know, a doctor and an engineer can be presented with the same problem. They're very smart people, but they're going to solve it in different ways because they have different knowledge banks. And so we need to make sure that we're increasing students' knowledge banks.
Okay, candidate Asa?
I think we definitely need to look at this. Research shows how important the arts are and how important foreign languages are to our students and how it can elevate and increase scores in other areas of academically. I also, think academic courses are obviously very important as well. So I think, I was a school counselor for many years, and scheduling is very challenging, creating a schedule and then fitting students into their schedules to get all the classes they need. So it just takes a very creative approach and figuring out exactly how to make the master schedule and then get students where they need to be. So I think that would be something that we could look at with administrators and principals who make those decisions on the schedule.
Okay, candidate Chavez?
Yes, a question again?
I can. So it's kind of two parts, but a few years ago, the middle school curriculum changed to limit a student's ability to simultaneously participate in a language, fine arts, and applied arts. And then the second part of the question is that they did reduce the science and social studies to half a year as opposed to a full year. And do you think these policies should be reviewed?
Well, I think the policy should be reviewed. I think every student should have the opportunity to, find their place. I think a student shouldn't be limited on, it shouldn't be this or that. It should be an opportunity for them to find where they fit academically. I think, like Ben said, there's learning that happens when students are doing things outside of regular curriculum like science and math, and they shouldn't have to choose between them. So it sounds like it's a program that really needs to be reviewed. Students shouldn't have to sacrifice academics in order to pursue interests in art or music or foreign language.
Okay, candidate Henry?
I agree that this should be 100%, this policy should be 100% reviewed. As somebody who played the flute in band and also majored in Spanish, I would be devastated as a student to find out that I couldn't do both. So I agree that this is something that we should be looking into, as I don't think that students should have to pick between one or the other. I think that this would be talking with, the community members, the students themselves, the teachers, and how we can work together to arrive at a solution that will benefit all of our students.
Okay, candidate Hostler?
So I believe the reason at the time that the block schedule was put into place was to address students' needs in math and English language arts, and the time in those classes was extended. And then teachers in science and social studies, instead of flip-flopping one day on, one day off, they felt it was more effective to have a continual exposure to the social studies class one semester and science the other, because it just created continuity and helped kids stay on track. I think that policies that are put in place, I know this was put in place a while ago, I think they should be readdressed, and we should ask our teachers again and our parents in that community about this and how it's going, and we just need to revisit these things. This highlights the reason for the strategic planning process and having these times to have metrics and measurements to go back and say, okay, this was put in place. Now, is it working the way that we wanted it to work? Are there any adjustments that need to be made? So it sounds like maybe our middle school communities need to be surveyed about this, and we need to talk about it a little bit more. I advocate for kids being able to do anything they want, so I just asked our administration, how can we fit foreign language in other areas for kids that can't take it at middle school, maybe in the summer, after school programs, if there's any other ways that we can allow kids to take all those things. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Lee?
I think this is going to be a rare moment that all 8 candidates here would agree that this particular issue needs to be revisited. As for language and arts, as we all know, that learning arts would improve your creativity, and that's very important in a person's life. And so foreign language, I speak 2 languages, and one pretty badly, and that's English. But if my son wouldn't be able to speak Chinese, I would be devastated. So foreign language is very, very important to me. And for social studies and science, obviously, STEM is unfortunately, that's no matter what we say, that's the future of this particular world. So, and also, we do have the resources, since we are running a surplus on our budget. So we do have the resources to implement this kind of program to, probably increasing language. Sorry, I'll stop.
Okay. Candidate Nudera.
So let me start with saying that our children did not go through block scheduling. They went through the standard schedule, and when they came out of Bryan Middle School, they were able to play an instrument, speak a language, came home with all kinds of crafty fine arts, and they were loving school. Middle schoolers have boundless energy. And when you continue to provide opportunity for them to grow, that frontal lobe at this age is a sponge, and they just soak up the information. Again, we talk about devices. They're doing lots of things. Homework accompanies this. That keeps them busy and off of their device. The block schedule, to me, the way I view it, is this is creating some of the knowledge gaps that our students are having and why they are struggling in high school. They don't have those foundational blocks of learning to build upon once they're in their advanced classes.
Okay, next question, and we're going to begin with candidate Zuloff, and it's about that surplus. So District 205 has experienced a surplus in funding almost every year for the past 10 years, leaving our school community with roughly $45 million in unspent funds. Should the school board continue its past practice of raising taxes by the maximum amount allowed by law?
Personally, I do not think that we should continue that practice. Having more than $40 million in surplus, I don't understand the thinking behind, well, let's raise it and then have an annual abatements instead of saying, we have the surplus, we don't necessarily need to raise it the maximum amount, let's raise it when we actually need the funds. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Asaf.
The board action vote to request a tax levy recently is reevaluated annually. That's not something that is determined for many years to come. It's discussed and evaluated every single year. So the current levy is only a commitment to increase for next year. So I think, we can't make assumptions on what's going to happen in the future, and we need to just continue to, we have no idea where our economic society is going to go and where our what needs our school will need really far down the road. So I think we need to, again, evaluate annually and make decisions that are in the best interest of what our district needs and be good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars.
Okay, candidate Chavez.
The analysis we did on the tax levy or the tax increase, it went back and looked at about 10 or 15 years of data. And what we noticed, or we looked at, was that the district has been taxing over the rate of inflation for at least the last 10 years. We have a $47 million budget surplus. We looked at what we did this year and what we're likely to do if we continue to tax in the same manner we have over the last decade. And if we continue to do that, in 3 years, our taxes will go up about 17.1%. So I think, we need, I want our schools to be well-resourced and well-funded, but I also want to make sure that we're using those funds resourcefully, transparently, so the taxpayers are getting good value for their money.
Okay, candidate Henry.
I'm committed to financial responsibility. I know that our district didn't take the decision to raise the board didn't take the decision to raise taxes lightly. I think, with a lot of uncertainty that we have this year and the inflationary pressures that we're feeling, we are seeing higher rates of expenditures over the next year, and I think it's important to maintain a healthy fund balance as well. The tax levy resets every year, and I'm confident that if inflation improves, we can work together to lower the tax levy in the future. I know our community values investing wisely in our schools, and I'm committed to ensuring fiscal responsibility and high-value return for our students.
Okay, Candidate Hostler.
So first, I want you to know that our district has very high standards for fiscal responsibility. Taxpayer money is not spent lightly here, and we are again evaluating systems to be sure we're getting the most value for our dollars. District 205 has the lowest tax rate and second lowest spending per pupil of all our comparator districts. Right now, we are in a high inflationary period that is affecting all of us as taxpayers and also our district across the organization. There are rising costs in transportation, healthcare claims, in addition to the high costs of labor and materials. So these are the reasons that the decision was made for the tax levy. But I want to assure you that this decision is not made lightly, and it's made on a yearly basis. Anyone who says your taxes are going to increase a certain amount over a certain amount of time is just misinformed, and that's just not how it works. What we have done is saved our taxpayers as much as possible on the portion that they are paying toward the referendum by optimizing the sale of bonds and abating to keep the portion of the tax bill as flat as possible. And the high point is under $40 million in our reserves. And once we take $21 million out of that, which we are putting towards some added scope on our buildings, our fund balance will actually be $18 million. So I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Candidate Lee.
I understand that the past couple of years, the inflation has been high, and many has indicated that's one of the biggest reasons for the tax increase. However, I want to say that the school district is unlike a corporation. The school district's revenue is guaranteed. Within 2008, during the Great Recession, everybody paid their property tax, and our school is funded. And with the pass of the referendum, I think the Elmhurst district has proved itself that the citizen is generous enough to provide the school with the fund that's needed. With the surplus that in the yearly budget and also the extra fund that we have, I don't think we need to increase the taxes at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, Candidate Nudera.
We were around when the school district was in the red. And so I understand why the district has created such a generous pad for itself. But there's a difference between having enough reserves and having too much reserves. Currently, we are in the midst of a recession, and I think we need to be cognizant and we need to be accountable to the taxpayers. Not everyone can afford a yearly bump. Not everyone should afford a yearly bump. It is my opinion that we work down some of our reserves till we get it to, a reasonable amount, and then we reevaluate whether that takes a year or two. But to tax people right now when their wallets are already hurting, in my opinion, is irresponsible.
Okay, Candidate Eskershower.
Can you please reread the question?
Can. District 205 has experienced surplus in funding almost every year for the past 10 years, leaving our school community with roughly $45 million in unspent funds. Should the school board continue its past practice of raising taxes by the maximum amount allowed by law?
No, I don't think the school board should continue their past practice of raising taxes every year. I do think that it needs to be reevaluated on a yearly basis. We do not need to have $45 million in surplus. Nursing is 1% of the budget, so the nursing cost goes up. That's about $20,000 on a $2 million budget. We can take that out of the $45 million surplus instead of raising taxes. Health insurance is only 8% of the budget. If it goes up 6.5% on a $2 million budget, it's only $10,400. That can come out of the surplus. We only need to keep $5 to $10 million in the surplus in case a boiler breaks or other issues arise with the buildings. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're beginning again with candidate Asaf, and this is one of the questions that the candidates had in advance. What role should District 205 schools play in addressing students' mental health concerns?
Well, schools are a natural setting to support mental health. School-based mental health is becoming a vital part of our student support systems, and schools are often the first line of defense when identifying a mental health concern. Schools are not meant to provide therapy or diagnose students, but school counselors and social workers can collaborate with parents and with outside practitioners in conjunction with them to support existing plans for students. You know, the CDC just released the first data since the start of the pandemic, and it shows that U.S. teen girls are experiencing record levels of sadness and relationship violence. 3 in 5 teens are reporting persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. The risk of suicide is the highest it's been in a decade, and more than half of the LGBTQ plus teens are experiencing mental health challenges. Students already face everyday stressors, and then coming off of COVID, it's clear we need to have a proactive approach to student mental health to reduce absenteeism, promote positive behaviors, and self-confidence. There is no one on the board currently with a background in mental health, and I would like to be that person to bring the professional mental health experience to the board.
Okay, candidate Chavez.
First, I want to say that I wholeheartedly support students that have mental health issues. I think that every student in the school should have resources available. I think what the school district needs to do in terms of mental health is to evaluate. We have pivoted our priorities in District 205 to address mental health. We have 8,000 students. We are last year the district sent out a survey to parents and asked them what they wanted from the school district. The survey came back and said 70% of parents wanted us to focus on academics. 36% said they wanted social emotional needs addressed. I believe in supporting those students, but I believe in targeting resources to those students so that the rest of the students can carry on with their academics. We are spending a lot of time, a lot of resources on mental health in the school. I think we need to target those resources to the kids that need them the most, let the rest of the students carry on with their academics.
Okay, candidate Henry.
Our district should be adopting a whole child approach to education. Improving students' mental health will lead to enhanced academic growth and lower our district's rates of chronic absenteeism, which mental health is the lead contributor. Multiple medical groups have declared our children are experiencing a mental health emergency, and I personally have treated an increased number of children coming to the hospital with mental health crises. I will advocate for a comprehensive school mental health support through a multi-tiered system approach that promotes positive school learning environments and integrated social emotional learning for all our students, with early identification and intervention for those youth at higher risk. This will reduce the prevalence and severity of mental illness by improving access to care, promoting wellness, positive relationships, and ultimately leading to stronger academics. We need to build a foundation with our parents, teachers, school mental health professionals to expand mental health literacy, decrease stigma, and normalize treatment.
Candidate Hostler.
Our students' mental health is a vital part of their ability to succeed in school. And as a district, we are committed to assisting our students when they are facing mental health challenges. It's important for our staff to partner with parents and families to use a team approach and make a comprehensive plan for what can be done day to day to help. Our role as a district is to determine what can be provided to offer support, coping strategies, and tools to help a child be successful in the school environment. And then, through regular check-ins, make sure that approach is helping. District 205 staff also helps families find resources in the community if needed, and the administration will make sure that we have the necessary staffing to support all of our students' needs. We are also prioritizing relationship building between staff and students to help so kids feel comfortable voicing a concern to a teacher, and so teachers will be able to more easily identify when one of their students might be struggling.
Okay, candidate Lee.
District 205 school should play a very important role in address students' mental health concerns. Because schools are often the first point of contact for students who may be experiencing mental health issues. District 205 schools should consider implementing the following strategies. 1, prevention and early intervention. Schools should be proactive, identifying and addressing mental health issues early on, such as through check-ins with students, mental health screening and/or training to recognize warning signs of mental health issues. Second, mental health services. Schools should provide access to mental health services to students, such as counseling and therapy, for students who needs them. Not all of them, but for students who needs them. Third, create a positive school climate. District 205 schools should strive to create a positive school climate to promote students' well-being and positive mental health outcomes. This could involve implementing strategy to reduce bullying and harassments, promoting positive relationship among students and staff. And then lastly, partnership with parents and community.
Okay, candidate Nudera?
The district should be aware of and support parents whose children have been diagnosed with mental health concerns. The district can work with the parents to design a classroom management plan. This plan would include input from the student first, parents, teacher, counselor, and if needed, social workers. If agreed upon, the plan may require help from our parapros, even if that's just temporarily. A co-teaching concept can also be explored. Again, student-driven. I have firsthand working experience with a variety of students who are sensitive to anxiety. These students may be reemerging from COVID protocol, have IEP 504 plans, be identified as LGBTQ+, or just going through a rough period. It has been my experience when appropriate supports are in place, these students feel comfortable, will take chances, and excel. Because they now feel confident, they will transfer what they have learned to other classes, situations, and in no time learn to manage normal stress.
Okay, candidate Esker Schauer?
Mental health is a problem. COVID did not help. Masking certainly did not help and only made the problem worse. Teachers have plenty to do and they do not want to be counselors. They are not trained for this. Teachers have a heart and they care about their students, but they are not mental health professionals. How many kids need help? The current school board should know. Has there been an intensive study done at District 205? You are implementing SEL as a solution for mental health problems, but how can you prescribe the same solution for every student? This doesn't make sense. If a community was having heart problems, would you give them all the same medicine? No. Each individual person would need a diagnosis and then the proper solution applied. SEL is being taught the same for everyone, but it is not the same for everyone. SEL is taking time away from instruction. I think parents might want to study it first. Have you seen the comments on Elmhurst News and Comment?
Okay, candidate Zuloff.
I think just like with everything else, we need to have a layer of best practice and then follow up with more when needed. If you're not familiar with the response to intervention or RTI triangle, it states that a majority of kids are going to be fine when you have best practices in place. A small percent of kids are going to need a second layer, and an even smaller percent of students are going to need a third layer. In an ideal setting, that's what we should be seeing in subjects like reading and math, and that's the goal. Now, to identify the students who need additional support, we need to have the right assessments and progress monitoring tools. And I think the same could be said about students' mental health concerns. There are a variety of practices that should be in place to ensure teachers are fostering relationships, and I think that's between teacher and student, and then student to student. They should also be building inclusive classroom environments and making sure students feel like they belong, and helping students with life skills through things like restorative practices. We should then use the tools and data we have available to identify who might need additional support. So who's missing classes, who's not coming to school regularly, who's receiving a lot of referrals, who's actually just talked to teachers about issues that they're having, and provide additional support to those students.
Okay, I'm going to try to squeeze in one last question before we get to our closing statements, and we're beginning with candidate Chavez. And the question is, at what grade level should the district introduce sex education?
Tricky question. I think foundational sex education is something that's necessary for every child in our district. I mean, I had it when I was growing up, and I think every child should have that. I think, we have to look at what's age appropriate, and I think we need to look at maybe there should be some studies done on where children are comfortable talking about certain things. My guess, it's probably somewhere in middle school and maybe above. But I think that's something where, however we decide what we're going to do with sex education with kids, parents should be intimately involved on the type of content, and parents should there should be full transparency on what's being taught. I think, probably middle school, but I think, again, parental involvement is very important so that whatever we roll out in the district, everybody feels comfortable with.
Okay, Candidate Henry?
So I want to take out the sex word in this, and that I think personal health and safety should be taught to our children at a young age. I think that's important, and that is what we're doing in District 205. It starts with personal health and safety, right? Safe touches, making sure that you're respecting each other's boundaries and respecting each other's bodies, and then a developmentally appropriate sex education as we get older, as children get older, talking about puberty and human development, and then talking about safe sexual practices. I think that this is the timeline of how sex education should occur in our schools. Sex education, when it's comprehensive and represents all of our learners, leads to improved rates of abstinence, lower rates of risky behaviors, and including lower rates of teen pregnancies and lower rates of sexually transmitted infections. I think this is a very important topic that our schools should be teaching, and it should be an adjunct to the lessons that our students are also learning at home.
Okay, Candidate Hostler?
In District 205, we offer a comprehensive health education, which is mandated and includes health topics with sex education offered at different appropriate grade levels. We work with a group called Candor that presents the age-appropriate materials at the right times. This foundational presentation of sex education is important. Kids need to learn what's appropriate, what's not. It might be the first time that a child is learning that something they may be experiencing isn't appropriate and isn't what everybody else is experiencing. And I feel that's really important to present that to our students. Like I said, we use an organization that offers this program at the appropriate grade levels for the appropriate topics. Thank you.
Candidate Lee?
Regarding sex education, I agree with the candidates before. Safety education obviously is very, very important. Safe touch. What's appropriate, what's inappropriate needs to be taught at a very young age. However, the actual sex education needs to be culturally appropriate, developmentally appropriate, and here's the reason why. The different cultures has different views on sex education. We are a multi-culture community here, and we have to respect each culture's idea on sex education. Developmentally appropriate, there has been study, different people, different kids develop differently and also have a different maturity rate. We cannot, even if we're talking about age-appropriate education, at the same age, two different students may not have the same mental development to comprehend the subject. And also parent involvement. Any kind of sex education should have parental involvement involved. Thank you.
Candidate Nudera?
Well, I echo Dr. Henry's statements on how we need to approach children when they're young with safe touching and who it's okay to be around, where you're supposed to be around them, et cetera. As an educator who has taught parent and child development, I am a proponent of appropriate timing for sex education. School districts have teachers trained to manage these discussions based on the stages of growth and cognitive development. Schools also need to consider the effect of sexual education within family dynamics, including but not limited to cultural beliefs and cultural competencies, students with cognitive processing, religious orientations, and individual student maturity. It has been my experience that kids just want to be kids, and when they are curious, they will ask. And a lot of times we let them direct the conversation.
Okay, Candidate Esker Schauer?
When should the sexual education begin for our students? I think the parents need to be involved. They need to know the curriculum before it comes out. In the past, there was a fifth grade. My sons did a health class, and that was like changes in the body, and that's really good information for them to have before they are going through puberty. In 7th grade, they had another class. These were all great for them. But I really think you need to stay out of the younger grades, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. Parents need to be able to opt out their child if the curriculum does not agree with their religious beliefs. All right, thanks.
Okay, candidate Zuloff.
Well, I was also going to start with, I'd like to echo Dr. Henry, but that was already taken. It's hard to nail down a grade level here, as a lot of people have said. Kids mature at different rates. When I was a 5th grade teacher, we had a Robert Crown trip, and some of my students were just fine with that, and some of my students were not mature enough to handle that. I will say it came in great handy, though, as we went right before the 5th grade funk hit with the spring, and the boys needed all the deodorant in the world. We definitely need to start with things that are dealing with safety, and that needs to start sooner rather than later. I just heard of another incident in my hometown where somebody of abuse, and so we need to make sure that children can appropriately talk about that, and then just making sure that we have a developmentally appropriate curriculum as the students progress throughout the grades.
Okay, and last, candidate Asaf.
I am supportive of developmentally and age-appropriate, medically accurate sex education aligned with the Illinois instructional mandates and the national sex education standards. Research shows sexual health instruction, when done comprehensively, promotes self-confidence and sense of belonging, reduces unintended pregnancies, and reduces health problems, and also some forms of relationship violence and sexual abuse. As required by state law, the Illinois learning standards for comprehensive personal health and sexual education are the national sex education standards. I believe sexual health instruction is important for all students. However, I do support the parents' each parent's right to opt out of a sex ed program. And this is established by the Illinois Code and followed by District 205, and that's an available option to all parents.
Okay, so that ends our question and answer period, and I tried to get through as many questions as I could, but obviously this is important to so many of you. But we are going to go to closing statements, and again, the candidates have 1 minute. We're going to begin with candidate Henry.
Okay. Thank you so much to the League of Women Voters and for all of you for being here today. With my experience as a pediatrician, injury prevention advocate, and medical professor, I feel I'm uniquely qualified to serve on the Board of Education. My critical thinking skills, ability to manage complex and challenging situations, and effective communication will be essential to my work on the school board. As a medical expert, I will advocate for the health and safety of our children and faculty, as this continues to be critical to improve our academic outcomes in our schools. Among the candidates, I'm the only gun safety advocate passionately volunteering my time, striving to ensure our community is safer from gun suicides, school shooting incidences, and other gun violence. In addition, as a mother of young school-age children, I remain fully invested in our schools, community, and the work of the Board of Education. I'm committed, dedicated, and passionate about advocating for the success of all of our children every day, and I'm asking for your vote on April 4th. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Hostler.
Thank you. Recently, I've met with many people, and I was struck by the consensus in our community on what the important issues are. For all the conflict we see in the news and on social media, our community is generally in agreement on the key issues we need to address. This led me to the important question of what type of people do we need on the school board to help address these issues? 3 things came to mind. First, dedication. Being on the board is a time-consuming job. Working hard to understand issues, communicate with stakeholders, and make good decisions is a significant time commitment. Second, being open-minded. A board member can have strong opinions, but must be a good listener and willing to change their mind if it's in the best interest of the community and district. Third, finally, collaboration. Stating we have a problem 100 times does nothing to solve it. We must truly understand the problem and work as a team to develop and implement plans. The issues at hand are important, and just as important is the ability of the candidates to succeed as a board member. This is a challenging job, and I would not be here if I did not feel that my remaining on the board was essential to the positivity and forward momentum we need for District 205 to thrive.
Thank you. Candidate Lee?
Unfortunately, I did not prepare a closing statement. That said, first, many people talk about their education and education experience. I'm going to talk about my life experience. First-generation immigrants, went through 2 years in high school here in United States, experienced the discrimination because of my English, experienced the discrimination because I did not know how to navigate the culture here. I think this is a very diverse community. I think the board needs a fresh perspective from a new member here. Thank you.
Candidate Nudera?
I am a second career educator who has taught and coached both in and out of our district. I recently earned my Master of Science in Education, Foundations of Education, and I will bring the most up-to-date strategies to help promote learning and support teacher development. I have more than 20 years of committed service to D205 as a PTA member, committee chair, and to the community as Cub Scout leader, Elmhurst Eagle, board member, parent liaison, YSET, it goes on and on. I am a regional, state, and national judge. And I've coached York Cheer, and I've helped get them downstate several times. I have been a club advisor, mentoring to students who have attended local, state, and national competitions. I've written original curriculum for foundational courses. I am trained in healthcare. I have strong communication, analytical, and empathetic skills. I bring organization, expertise, and experience to this district.
Candidate Esker Sauer?
"73% of our tax dollars go to our local schools. Our current school board has been building a rainy day fund to weather the storm and not raise taxes on our citizens. Our city hasn't raised taxes. Our county didn't raise taxes. So why did our current school board vote to increase our taxes by 5%? This equates to roughly $8 million extra dollars for our schools. And now they talk about abatements. Let's not play games. Our voters aren't dumb. If you abate roughly $1 million, that leaves $7 million. Our taxes are still going up. Federal taxes pay for half of our busing cost. If our busing costs, which are only 3% of our budget, are $6 million and they increase 10%, the total cost for our district is $3.3 million. We don't need the 5% increase. Jamie is last on the ballot, but first for the kids.
Okay, Candidate Zuloff.
Ever since I was little, I've thrown myself into pretty much everything that I've done. When I was younger, it was athletics, ended up wrestling at the University of Illinois, and after I could no longer wrestle, I threw myself into education in general. I worked to get my master's as fast as I could, and then I got my doctoral, and then I got a second master's. During that same time, I was also coaching wrestling at Fenton High School. I was presenting at conferences. I was consulting with other school districts because I wanted to help as much as possible. Currently in Cicero, we've had a lot of work done within our curriculum, but we're also doing a lot of extra things. We have our in-house literacy podcast. I've started a literacy institute where we're now going to invite other school districts to come see what we're doing in Cicero. I've always worked hard to make sure that we're providing the best that we possibly can for the people that we're working with. Given that my daughter just turned 2 today and my son is a 4-year-old, I'm here for the long haul. I'll be very dedicated to helping District 205 succeed.
Okay, Candidate Asaf.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and everyone who attended here today. Your support is very, very welcoming to all of us. I am the only candidate on the board, or on running for school board, that has these three qualifications. I have 3 children currently in the district at 3 different, and then in 1 year they'll be in 3 different levels: high school, middle school, and elementary school. So again, I have a long-term vested interest in the success of our students and of D205. I have a master's degree in education and was a school counselor for many years. I've also been a very long-time volunteer in D205 as PTA president and many other PTA roles. I have shown my dedication to children and adolescents through my 25 years of working with students and children, and I want to bring my expertise in child and adolescent development and student mental health to the board. I would be the foremost expert on mental health on the board when there's no one currently on the board with that background. I'm asking for your vote on April 4th. Thank you very much.
Okay. And candidate Chavez?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting me here to speak in front of my community. Thank you for showing up and listening. My candidacy is really driven by the need for improvement. I've been involved for about 1.5 years, if not longer, in really taking a hard look at the things in our community, in our school district, that matter the most. There are a lot of different issues. There's mental health, there are sex ed issues, there are a lot of different things, but at the heart of what we should be doing in our school district is preparing our students to achieve success when they leave the district. And at the current, at present, if you look at the data, and I encourage every person in this community, this information is available. The problems with academic proficiency in this district are not new. They're years in the making. And so my candidacy is driven by informing the community about academics and starting to offer solutions and how we're going to improve. When we have 50% of our students in a richly funded district that can't perform at grade level, and you know what that means for their future, we have to start asking questions. We have to peel back the curtain and ask the hard questions, get behind the rhetoric. Thank you.
Okay. That concludes our candidate forum this afternoon. I want to thank the candidates for participating. I want to thank you for being here to listen and take this information.